It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 474. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
I saw an eclipse and then I lost my voice. Coincidence or proof that the moon is out to get me?
Kodra.
Have a nice cup of liberty.
Tam.
That's not managed democracy.
And Thalen.
I mean, the moon is absolutely out to get us.
I feel like the sun is out to get us more, though.
Yes.
Also, did you see the pictures that I posted in chat earlier today taken from the ISS?
Yes.
Yes.
That is creepy as shit.
So creepy.
Seeing the top-down version of an eclipse, yeah.
The just black spot on the Earth.
Moon's haunted.
Yeah.
Dead center of that spot is where the cute little plants were left. Remember, your new little plant friend needs constant supplies of fresh human blood. It's very important.
Feed me, Seymour.
If you weren't willing to care for them properly, you shouldn't have brought them home in the first place.
So, it's not often that things line up perfectly for anniversaries, but like on 2014, on this date, we recorded the first episode of AggroChat.
Wow.
Wow.
Whoa.
So
It's
we are
been
going
10
into our...
years.
It's been a decade. We're going into our 11th year.
Whoa.
Is
Yeah.
it already
For us to start
felt
proper
old?
season numbering.
No.
And
it's not time for us.
It's far,
In
far
the
too late for
truest
that.
traditions of this show, we didn't do anything for our 10-year anniversary.
No, not a thing. Like, so what's hilarious is I put this on my Google Calendar, and for 2 weeks, it's been asking me if I wanted to do anything for my anniversary, and I thought it was drunk because there is no anniversary, either dating anniversary or wedding anniversary that was coming up. But I mean, I guess dating anniversary is tail end of May, but still, like, I couldn't figure out what the hell it meant. And then today it proudly announced that it was my anniversary. And I'm like, oh.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, we did a show and we've done it now for a decade. So
See, what's 10 years? Is 10?
I don't bubblegum. I don't
Something
know.
made out of 10. I don't know.
Anytime I think of 10, I think of those tin foil ashtrays that like
from
fast food
McDonald's.
restaurants used to have out. I can remember playing with them as a kid. You know,
Oh,
my
those were
parents
great.
didn't smoke, but like I could make things out of them. Anyway, so yeah, like it's kind of weird. Like, and the show has grown, and honestly, like most everyone has been here for a very, very long time. Like we coalesced into our current form pretty quickly and have just kept doing that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, maybe a few months we did different formats.
Right. Well, like
It took about
Ash and Kodra and I were on the first show, but like I want to say it was episode 3 or so that we had Tam, or maybe it was even the second episode. So like it was real fast.
We had Tam sporadically in the start, yeah.
So are we going to update our theme music to be something other than Naruto?
It was Bleach.
I thought it was
It was
Bleach.
It's
Bleach.
Bleach.
Oh,
It's
Bleach?
Bleach.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, maybe now we
It's-
can go to Naruto.
What's hilarious is like I've been waiting all of these years for a copyright
takedown.
strike. No, nobody's supposed to care. So I've just let it go. Like I was gonna have somebody like record something custom and like I was just gonna let it ride until somebody noticed us.
Seems smart.
Anyway, so yeah, like that's a thing. So go us. Grace, tell us about Gnorps.
I love them.
They're kind of
didn't-
hilarious.
I didn't know I needed them in my life.
Appreciate
So I've talked about the game Chillquarium 1 year before, just an idle game where you raise fish and it's very chill, and I love it. And I happened to be poking around on Steam, and the person who made that game put together a bundle with this other game called the Gnorp Apologue, and was like, "You guys should play this." So I made a bundle, and I said okay and bought the game. And I like idle games. They're fun when I need something chill. And this one, of all the ones that I have played, feels like it has the most game there. That there's actually choices to make and things I can do. And I never quite feel like I just have to sit for a while and wait for things to happen. Like it's pretty active for an idle game, but I still also can make an engine that runs and does things mostly on its own. So the idea in this game is that you are helping out Gnorps, which are adorable little neuters that like run around and really just want to get shards from this rock, and they will hit it with their head, and another little guy will come and grab it and grab whatever gets chipped off and puts it in a stash, and you can use that to buy upgrades. So pretty kind of standard, but just intensely adorable. I love them.
There's so many things that crack me up, like the whole miner thing, or not miner, the mountaineers. The fact that, like, okay, so you open a hot chocolate cafe and it gives you mountaineers, but if you give them people to tell their stories to, they become more efficient.
And they wear little hats and they climb to the top, to the highest part of the pile of shards, and start sort of digging their way down and pushing the shards that they dig further closer towards the stash. And they're probably my favorites, but there's psychic ones, there's ones with bows and arrows, and then ones with guns. There's like Gnorps in a balloon, and you can give the balloon guy a gun. And everything is focused on hitting this rock so that shards come off of it and they can collect them.
I think my favorite is the jetpack bomber guys, because they're hilarious. Because they like slowly jetpack up to the top of the rock and then just cut engines and drop straight down.
So the other thing I like about this one is that you actually have a little talent tree. And basically, as your shard collection rate increases, you fill up a little bar and you get talent points. And at any time, you can press and hold the prestige button, and that will essentially stop your game, reset everything back to the beginning, and give you access to any of the talent points that you've accumulated. And so that does fun things like, I don't know, give extra abilities to your jetpack guys, or change the rate at which you can get shards from certain things, or like maybe, I don't know, maybe when your Gatling gun Gnorp fires, sometimes it also spawns rockets. That it's just random extra stuff.
I'm envisioning like lemmings when you're saying Gnorps.
It's very lemmings.
Very much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very much like that. They just kind of wander back and forth and go over and hit the rock. I also really like, there's at some point you make a little church and then you tell the church to search for the chosen one, and a bunch of Gnorps go and try to pull a sword out of a stone, and most of them die in the process, but eventually one of them gets it and then goes and beats the hell out of the big rock with the sword. I mean, it's very adorable. It's very simple, but I think the number of choices and the fact that you can sort of prestige and get these talent points that change the gameplay or speed things up makes it pretty different from a lot of the other idle games that I have played, and just makes it really fun. Just super cute. Yeah, I just love watching these little guys, and as you keep breaking the rock, the shards get more colorful. So eventually, you just get to the point where like my screen is just a nonsense mess of rainbow colored shards flying off of a rock, plus all the little Gnorps running up to try to hit it, and all of their, associated guns and rockets, and it's wonderful. So, yeah,
I gotta check this out.
Yeah, if you're not sure about idle games, but want to try one that's not just completely, I just click on one thing forever. This one was really fun, and it actually has an end. I have reached the end. It has a finale, and it's called the finale, and it's great. So yeah, it's a few bucks on Steam, and I thought it was well worth it. And then I griefed Bel with a copy of it. And
then it killed an entire afternoon. Because like at some point, and I don't know when this showed up, but it showed up at some point. You start to get like this metric at the top of your screen of how much breaking capacity you have and how much collection capacity you have, so that you can try and balance them out. Because like for a while, my pile of uncollected shards was taller than the rock.
Yeah, and once it gets to a certain height, then it sort of upgrades to the next level. You get another currency that you can spend to upgrade your Gnorps, and you sort of have to go through the cycle a few times. So it's kind of fun to find a balance. When you're starting, you want to try to collect everything that you get because you need to spend those shards. But then at some point, you want to let it build up so that you can bump up, they call it a compression event, where once it gets to a certain height, the pile gets absorbed back into the rock and then starts over again. And you need to do that a few times to get to the end. So it's finding a balance and moving back and forth between collecting and letting them pile up. It's fun and more engaging and thoughtful than it has any right to be.
Yeah, I mean, and it really does remind me of Lemmings in a lot of ways, because like every single kind of Gnorp has a mechanical loop that you can tweak slightly, but also they're all kind of hilarious and charming. Like I love the archers, especially once I got fire arrows. So it's not just that the archers fire, it's that like there's a archery instructor kind of character that like makes all the arrows for them, and you have to wait until they pile them on their table, and you'll pile it on one table, then he'll pile it on the next table, and they'll pile it on the third table, and then he'll stand out in front and signal them to fire. And then they fire these fire arrows, which catches the rock on fire, which spits off additional shards as it's burning. They're all kind of hilarious.
I mean, and again, for something that's like 8 pixels wide or something, they're little teeny tiny guys. They have a lot of personality.
Oh, that's so fun.
So anyway, also extremely good to play when you're not feeling well and don't have the mental capacity to do much else.
Yeah, when you want to be doing something, but can't be doing a lot.
Yep.
What is AFK Journey?
That's the idle game that I picked up recently. And it's... Man, I want to like it more than I do.
The art is really good, though.
The art is really good.
It's got incredible
yeah,
art.
I love the art.
It got me because the art is incredible.
I played the previous one for a while that they've got AFK Arena, and again,
Yeah.
the art is really good.
Yeah.
And like, I never got into AFK Arena because it just didn't do it for me. But like, the art here hooked me, and then it was just like, it is too many little interlocking systems with no cohesion whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I tried
like,
it out, and like after an hour or so, I was just like, "This is too much. I can't."
Yeah, like it's too much stuff, and it's like I'm still playing it. I'm gonna play it until I hit the like obvious. We are gonna nickel and dime you in every conceivable way as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm already seeing the edges of that. They are definitely in the like, hey, we've monetized everything.
I feel like you've described the life cycle of me with every mobile game I've ever played, where I have a few really good days and or weeks, and then they just want a lot of money, and I get tired of it.
Yeah. And like, I'm actually enjoying myself. I can see the edges of the time where I'm not going to enjoy myself, but until then, I'm going to enjoy myself, and then I'm going to not do that. But yeah, it's got such good like art, and I'm a little back and forth on the character designs. I think that they're mostly good, but they're cool. Like they've just got a bunch of cool ideas for their character design. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know. It's eventually going to be like, hey, too many people, too many attempts to take my money.
Yeah.
But I really like the character stuff that it's doing, and like making my teams and figuring out their abilities and stuff is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I like some of the combat stuff where it's kind of like a puzzle. You got to pick the right pieces and then set them in the right places on the board. That's cool.
Yeah. I like a little bit more of that. I think it's got some really cool ideas.
This might be, the answer might be a little bit more generic here, but I was enjoying watching Ash play Unicorn Overlord, which definitely has a lot of that going on as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to form a squad. This squad, I will tell it what it does before fights. Like, here are your tactics you follow. Here's where your people sit. And then, like, you're going to run into the enemies and it's going to auto battle. Which I thought that was an interesting take.
Yeah.
I've been told that Unicorn Overlord is like Ogre Battle. I never played Ogre Battle.
I've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things about Ogre Battle.
I played Ogre Battle on the Super Nintendo, but I don't remember much about it. It was a game I rented once.
I am looking forward to playing Unicorn Overlord. I'm just waiting for time to play it with my husband when he's not super busy, but that one I'm very much looking forward to.
Yeah, I do need to pick that one up. It does look cool.
So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here because I sincerely doubt most everyone on this show has stopped and chained through the Amazon Fallout series, but it's pretty good. Like it's,
I really want to see it.
It is shockingly good. Like I did not want to get my hopes up because we have all seen how uneven adaptations of video games have been into other media.
Yeah.
Like the latest Mario movie was great. So, maybe we're on an upward trend. But this show is really freaking good from a standpoint of this is very believably a Fallout show. And someone did the research and got like all of the sounds correctly. Like I can tell what weapon they're firing based on the sound of it.
Nice.
Like all the Pip-Boy noises are right. Like it is so very connected to this universe, and like it's not trying to be the game, it's doing its own thing, but also they've maybe done more factional world building in the California region than we've had since New Vegas. Like you do kind of find out what like NCR's been up to. So it's interesting. Like it's 8 episodes. Each episode's like an hour long. So it is not a short show. Character acting super good. Like I have begrudgingly begun to like all the characters we were introduced to. I didn't start out liking them all, so well worth the time. Like if you have access to Amazon Prime Video, you should watch this at some point.
Okay.
It's good. Like
Yeah, I've heard really good things and I really want to check it out.
Does it have the is it got the right totally dark humor to it?
Yes. It is. It has some very Fallout humor. It also has some very Fallout vaults.
Okay.
So
I was like with Fallout vaults, that's sort of a Bethesda invention, isn't it? Like
no, the vaults were in the
political experiment vaults. These vaults are political experiments. I thought that was a Bethesda thing, or have vaults always been like that?
I mean, I don't think they leaned as hard into it.
It was not as explicit in the earlier games, yes.
But there were definitely vaults that you went to where you could tell that some bad stuff went down.
Well, sure, yeah. So the question is, does bad stuff happen because things fall apart, like the best laid plans fall apart? Or is
I don't think
happening?
You know.
Yeah,
in the first 2 games, I don't think you really know.
Yeah, the Black Isle games, it's very much up in the air as to like, was this just utter bureaucratic snafu or what? Yeah, and then Fallout 3 is where it gets really established that there was a whole
all the vaults were experiences or experiments, and it absolutely leans into that lore in the television show. Vault Tech is not exactly a good company, but anyway, like it does it does an interesting job of blending pre-nuke era stuff and current time stuff, and it does a really good job. Bluey Ghostbasket spoilers.
So yeah, we're gonna be spoiling the most recent episode of Bluey,
which aired simultaneously worldwide. Finally started doing it.
Yes. So things that have been happening with Bluey. But this is season 3. We're on season 3. We have been for the past probably 6 years now. Australia gets the first group, and then eventually, once they signed the deal with Disney would months later release the edited versions for the American audiences.
Yes, edited to remove poop references.
Poop references and male pregnancy.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, so what we know going into this episode last week is that there's a big Bluey episode coming up. So most episodes of Bluey are 7 to 8 minutes. They have been talking about the fact that there is going to be an episode that is featuring a wedding. We now know that it is their Uncle Radley's wedding to their godmother Frisky.
That's Rad and Frisky's wedding.
Rad and Frisky's wedding.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yes.
The way the show delivers this is hilarious.
And the episode is called The Sign, and it's going to be a 4x length episode, so 28 minutes.
Yep. And we've got some other rumors as to things about it. I don't know to what degree we want to go into those or not.
Well, I did not know much about what was going on at this point. And then
I feel like there's a kind of out of the show note that's really important here.
Okay.
After what we're going to call season 3 structurally,
the
entire team took some time off.
Yeah, they're taking a break.
They
were taking a break for an undetermined period of time because they were like, we need a break.
Yes, and in
And
fact,
no one has been sure if they're coming back.
In fact, the break is already like started, right?
Yeah.
But what was we kind of knew that they were talking about a hiatus, and that's fine. What we didn't know until I feel like only a few weeks ago was that there was actually going to be another episode inserted in here.
Yes.
Which is called Ghostbasket.
I feel like we had heard that episode title, but nothing else about it.
Yeah.
Like I think people had guessed that maybe it might be a Halloween related episode or something. It's not.
Yeah. And so like they're like, okay, so last Sunday Ghostbasket comes out, and then for us tomorrow is going to be an episode called The Sign, which is the wedding of Frisky and Rad. Great. Like, why is it called The Sign? I don't know at this point. And I'm watching, so we sit down and watch Ghostbasket, which is an extremely cute episode. It's an episode featuring very fan favorite characters, the grannies, which is Bluey and Bingo, the daughters, playing these old grandmother characters who are just constantly causing mischief.
Yes.
And it
some grannies.
Weird.
It opens weird because it opens
weird, and it doesn't. It's like it's a Bluey episode that's like a little bit off from the start.
Yeah, it opens with Bandit in his car saying like, "Okay, I can do this. I can do this," and like there's that moment of like, "Wait, what's going on?" And then like it's like, "I'm going to sell this house." Like, okay.
And then
it's part of a game.
And then you realize, okay, we're already in a game. Okay, like we've seen this before in Bluey. Like they play games with their kids, and this is just like in media res of a game. Like normally we see like the kids like propose the start of the game, and then the game's like full arc. This is very in media res, and eventually the like game is Chili, as the mom is trying to buy this house, is like looking at this house to buy it from Bandit the dad.
Bandit's the realtor. And
the girls, Bluey and Bingo, are the grannies who live there and don't want to sell the house.
Yes, their kids are making them sell the house so they can put them in an old codger's home.
Oh my god!
Yes, but that is the exact words that are used in the episode. You're gonna go to an old codger's home. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
And they have not been living in this house for 50 years. They won it in a raffle last spring.
At a surf raffle, yes.
My son thought that was hilarious.
What's so great about that is that's exactly the level of non sequitur details the kids add to things.
Well, it's also very funny, like in the episode, like they start playing the sad music when like Bluey is talking about how long she's been in the house, and then like the sad music cuts and Bandit's like, no, you haven't been here for 50 years. You just got it last month. It's great. The whole thing starts to go into like, okay, now the main plot is actually the house is haunted and it's Scooby-Doo style antics. Like there is a ghost basket, haunted...
Yes, the ghost is Bingo under a laundry basket.
Yes, the ghost... And so you've got like the classic hallway shot down res to like 8 frames per second so that it looks appropriate to Scooby-Doo era like animation, like going back and forth being chased by Bingo under a laundry basket. But ultimately, Chili lifts the laundry basket off of Bingo and is like, aha, this wasn't a ghost, it was just one of the grannies. And then decides to buy the house.
And then she buys the house and throws the grannies out.
Yup. And of course, Bandit is happy. He is supposed to have sold the house. He has succeeded, but the grannies are sad. And so he agrees to help them get the house back by pretending to be a ghost wheelbarrow. And
it works.
And it works because the Chili doesn't think that, like, in the game, Chili doesn't think that it's the grannies, but then she sees the grannies and realizes it's not the grannies and assumes it's a real ghost and runs out. And at this point of the show, I am thinking to myself, this is a very cute episode, but like, I don't understand why, like,
But
we
it's been a
had
little
to.
off. Like the beats are just like a half step off the entire time.
Why did we have to like wait? This should have been like part of the tranche that came when we got the cricket episode.
Well,
Like
and
this
importantly,
did not need to be like right before this episode. It's just like a silly little episode, right?
well, and importantly,
Oh man.
Bluey episodes, there's always an element of usually Bandit trying to teach the girls something.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work, and a lot of times Bandit's the one that learns something, but that's a standard element. Like the games are usually related to that in some way.
Yeah, there's a lesson, and there isn't really one here, or it's not like it's a confused one. It's very it plays out. So I was watching this with my wife and daughter. My daughter is too young to have strong opinions about the show at this point, other than dancing at the theme song. But like my wife is having a silly time, and I'm like getting more and more uncomfortable as this episode goes on, because this episode is structurally very similar to the latter half of a previous episode.
There was no setup. There was no
Yeah.
Why are they playing this game? Like it just doesn't.
Yeah, there's
just not quite
it lacks the setup of I don't remember the episode title, the one with the bird.
Copycat.
Yeah, Copycat. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got the exact same way that the second half is delivered.
Yeah.
With no setup. So I'm just getting more and more like uncomfortable with foreboding as this episode is going on.
I did not get that foreboding until the very last shot, which is Bandit saying, "Oh, go ahead if you have."
Yeah, and then there's that moment of Bandit sitting with the grannies and being like, "Well, that I can't do this every time."
And then it pans out to a for sale sign in front of their house.
Yeah, it just pulls back away from the house, and there's a for sale sign.
And
episode ends.
Episode ends. Normally, episodes end with a musical number. This episode ended on silence. Normally, it ends with like an animation in the end credits. This episode did not have that. I felt like my guts had been ripped out of my stomach.
It's a gut punch.
See, it's interesting because it was actually a big relief for me when I saw that.
Because now it made sense.
Now it all makes sense.
Well, it wasn't just now it all makes sense. It was, this is where they get this is how they're getting their groove back.
Yeah.
This is the inspiration they needed.
No, like given time and distance, I'm very excited to see what Ludo Studios does. In the moment, that was such an effective amount of like emotional like build up and like wow, it's very impressive what they were able to manage to get a whole bunch of people to feel. And then suddenly you're like, oh, the next episode is called The Sign. This is the sign.
Yeah. And and in doing it that way, they hit you with that same feeling of like as a kid, like learning that the house is being sold, you're gonna have to move. Like that big change just and I do think like this opens up so many like new story possibilities. Like I think it's going to be like very good. And Joe Brum has made clear that he doesn't have any particular intention of going anywhere. Like he'll keep the show going as long as it seems reasonable to keep the show going.
As long as they still have ideas.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's been an interesting thing for me. Like I respect that they're like, you know what, we are going to stop this when it's run its course.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's interesting because they're definitely aware of the aging of their audience, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if they like transition to a new audience or.
Well, and I mean, and simultaneously the aging of their cast. I would be shocked if they decided to recast Bluey and Bingo. So there will come a time. I mean, those characters are going to continue to age, while they're doing the show, and that changes the dynamic of things. Like,
I mean, they already have aged.
Yeah. We've seen their birthdays.
we have seen their birthdays, but also like the most notable one is definitely Socks, who is
Oh yes.
gone from being a nonverbal infant to like actually able to talk.
Yes, and possibly more emotionally together than his big sister.
Yeah.
Socks has become real like calm and like just wants to doodle on the tablet while Muffin is being insane.
But yes, good stuff happening in Bluey right now, and wow, I was not prepared for where Ghostbasket took me emotionally.
In a couple of days for the sign, there are some rumored character appearances that I'm looking forward to seeing what this means. But yeah, Blue's a great show. You should watch it.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see where they go with it. Like it feels like them saying we have ideas again, and like that's cool.
Yeah,
because I've seen the opposite, and I'm glad that they're kind of pulling back. Where like the show keeps on going, but the writers and like
nobody's actually
developers, but they just sort of run out of ideas.
AKA The Simpsons.
Yeah, I mean a lot of those shows.
Like, not to upset any Simpsons fans in our audience, but like it's kind of felt like The Simpsons have been on autopilot for a while,
possibly for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of the things that I've just seeing interviews with Joe Brum about the show and stuff, like it seems very clear that his goal is to make a good show, and how much money it makes and licensing and all that's for somebody else to worry about because he would be terrible at it.
Yes, it is interesting how much but also like Bluey was Bluey the number 1 streamer on Disney Plus and the number 2 streamer overall?
That sounds right. It's a big deal.
It's very fun. I'm enjoying it. And
it's a good time.
I am really excited for this next episode and what's coming up.
I mean, speaking of Disney Plus, have any of you been watching X-Men 97?
I want to watch that so much.
I have not, but I want to watch it.
I'm trying to decide if I need to sit down with the old one.
So that's
that's what I'm doing.
What I did is I watched a 30-minute recap of everything that was covered in the original series, because like I am realizing I didn't watch much of the original series, and that show went some places that I would have never expected a Saturday morning cartoon show to have gone.
Oh yeah, and apparently they continue that with X-Men 96. So
yes. This week was an emotional sucker punch.
That's what I've heard. Well, and I think I said to you, Bel, a couple of weeks ago that like I just that I would watch X-Men 97 at some point, and I just wish that I wished it was possible that they could somehow adapt Inferno, but that's just impossible because like all of the setup for that, and then they did, and I really don't understand how. But
yeah,
I'm interested to see what they did with it.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. Like, this is not a show targeted at kids in the least, but it also feels like a continuation of the 90s era show. And like, if this is what is leading us towards getting X-Men in the MCU, like I'm on board. Like maybe I'm really interested in the MCU again.
I'll take that version of the X-Men in the MCU. That works.
I want the X-Men 97 style X-Men is like why I like the X-Men, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so mad that everybody knows Cyclops is a big jerk.
Yeah,
because he's not in the show. He's great.
Yeah.
He's my Cyclops.
No, so I mean, basically up until the Fox movies, Cyclops was not a big, and then Fox ruined Cyclops. Still mad at them. But yeah, X-Men 92 Cyclops was great. X-Men Comics was great when he wasn't, abandoning his wife and kid in Alaska, but these things happen. I'm just really curious how they managed to Inferno in the comics was like the culmination of a good 10 years of setup across multiple books, and I'm real curious.
So I hear there's been a lot more Helldivers too.
I was gonna say I have been playing. So
So wait, isn't the game over? Didn't Super Earth win? I'm sure I saw something about the
mission
Super Earth won.
unaccomplished. No. They posted mission accomplished. Somehow, somehow the automatons returned.
I was assured that Super Earth had won.
Of course, Super Earth won, and to say otherwise would be propaganda, enemy propaganda. But no,
anti-democracy.
It would be not part of the message of managed democracy. Correct. Well, so one of the things that we also just from reading between this is considered propaganda, it seems very likely that actually the automatons might be being controlled by Super Earth.
I'm shocked.
Because any messages related to the fact that there are signals going to the automatons originating from Super Earth is considered propaganda. We have heard these messages and we consider them to be propaganda. So obviously, yes. I've been playing a lot of this with Tam, and just playing it 2-player has been very, very fun. It was very interesting because I am known to have a problem with games that I feel glorify fascism. I was watching the trailer for MechWarrior 5's Clan Invasion pack, and it's just I don't know anything about BattleTech lore. So this was sort of this is how I get exposed to the lore of BattleTech and what the clans are. And it's just this guy going off on a fascist rant about how we are genetically we are the pure species, and or the soldiers are not genetically pure enough and therefore are not going to be capable. And it was a bunch of eugenics stuff, and I was like, oh, that's not awesome.
Yeah, and the clans are not pleasant.
The clans are not pleasant, but one of the things that I think I was digging into mentally this week is the difference between satire and parody. And I feel probably the easiest way to say it is satire is a lot easier for terrible people to adopt and subsume into their identity, whereas parody is very obviously making fun of those idiots, and it's obvious enough that they're being made fun of that they don't want to take that identity on. There is no question everyone in Helldivers is a giant idiot. It is funny how idiotic these people are.
Helldivers is not being subtle about this.
No, Helldivers is not being subtle. They are awful and they are idiots. When you shoot one of your big guns for too long, your person goes into a patriotic, insane rant. That's where the have a nice cup of liberty comes from. That's one of the lines.
It's unbelievable. It's it's incredibly over the top.
It's like if Duke Nukem was, yeah.
Or you're firing and then I'm firing an HMG for long enough and my character just starts screaming uncontrollably as their voice shakes with the gun firing, and it just sounds absolutely ridiculous.
They're laughing, or they start to say they'll say something have a taste of democracy, but their voice will crack. The voice acting is so good.
The game also does a thing that I really appreciate. It is so fun. You were talking last week, because I did listen to the podcast, about how this game does friendly fire well. This game does such a good job at making hilarious failure moments that
yes.
Well, I guess this happened to me. I just finished punching in the key sequence to get a bunch of airstrike support, and then I dropped the orb that I'm supposed to throw at my feet.
Oops.
And so now I have like 3 seconds before bombs are about to land right here.
Once the pin has been pulled.
Yeah, it's also got some very, very funny stuff, like well, the respawning, especially in a group, helps a lot, because the way you respawn, it isn't like you sit around and wait. You respawn when a party member spawns you back in, basically.
But that's
'Cause there's
also a marker.
Yeah, which is also a marker that you've got to throw. Like, you've got a bunch of special abilities that you can fire that they call stratagems, which range from like resupply to bring me down a weapon to respawn one of my teammates. And so periodically what will happen is, I'll be shooting some big enemies, and I'll see a giant red shaft go up like 3 steps from me.
Whoops.
And that's an airstrike is coming here marker. And I'm like, well, I'm dead. I know I'm dead. I can't leave the blast radius in time.
Sorry.
But it means that there's a very real, like, team communication component when you start getting into more serious stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that you can die, but it's relatively low impact. Like, one death is relatively low impact, but you learn a valuable lesson, especially because it's probably the person who killed you that has to basically perform the mea culpa of getting you respawned. And yeah, it works really, really well. It's very, very fun with people.
Yeah. And then like starting to get a feel for some, like, the levels of difficulty are also really interesting to me. There are 9 difficulty levels. The first 3 sort of ramp up, and then once you get into the 4th, you start seeing a lot more large enemy types. Like, in the early ones, you're mostly just seeing foot soldiers, and then you start to see the stuff where it's like, okay, I probably need to start thinking about how I crack tanks.
Yeah, it's, it lets you do a lot of stuff to manipulate your loadout, and that loadout is really important.
Yes.
Like, at first I was annoyed because they don't give you a default loadout. Like, you can't just say, always give me these things every time I go into a mission. But, like, the more I've played, the more I'm like, oh no, that's actually by design to make you think about your loadout each time, because different missions want different things. I'd been bringing a mortar turret because I'd unlocked it, and it's really powerful, and it's great at cracking big enemies without a lot of work on my end.
It's also the best way to kill a whole bunch of civilians.
Yeah, when you're trying to extract them.
So good at killing civilians.
Oh, it's incredibly good at that.
The rewards for higher difficulty are also very real, though. Like, so you get to upgrade your what is the term? Because I just call them Star Destroyers, because you're very obviously in a Star Destroyer.
It's the Dreadnought, but look.
I thought it was called just something destroyer. But yeah, you can upgrade your Star Destroyer, but you need to get these samples. And so that's another big component, is like, I want to go around the map and I want to collect these items off of the ground. And then I want to, when my character dies, go back to where my character died and pick up the samples I lost so that I can ultimately extract with them, because that's how I upgrade my stuff. And like, it's really like there's a interesting balance between, like, okay, I'm like, we're looking at the clock. There are 5 minutes left. There's a couple more objectives. I don't want to lose 10 samples, 10 normal and 10 rare samples. Let's just extract now.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a pusher luck component. There's a little bit of a teamwork component. There's a little bit of a, like, planning your approach component. It's hitting. Like, I was having fun just hopping into some stuff solo, but it's been much more fun even just as a duo. And when I start looking at, the way the loadout falls and some of the different choices, like, more people would be more fun. because there's like other weird stuff that you could start doing, which I think is really cool.
I mean, I don't mind just sitting there and like there are times when it's like, okay, we've got this autocannon. Let's just have me reload you so you can go fully auto on it.
Oh yeah, like that's another big component. Some of the bigger guns either can't be reloaded solo or are way more efficient if you have a party member reloading you. And if you have a party member reloading you, you can just put out an unbelievable amount of damage, which is super helpful because you really want to do that sometimes.
I am starting to get a better idea of what level of ordnance I need to blow up certain buildings, because there's the way they teach you to blow up buildings, which is like the way available to everyone. You take a grenade and throw it into an exhaust port, or you can just call down a big airstrike on that base and then it blows up. One of these is a lot easier than the other.
Yeah, there's like a transformative moment where you don't have to like get up super close and personal in a mission to actually effectively take out the little bases, which makes it that much more meaningful when you do have to.
Yes.
Their escalation, the like progression is really, really solid. They let you bite off more than you can chew, just enough. Just enough for you to be like, oh, that's more than I can chew.
Time to go back to challenging difficulty. Hard was too hard.
Yeah.
But like, also eventually we'll have upgraded ourselves and also learned, like, we're already to the point where the big scary thing was, are they called hulks? I think they're called hulks.
Well, there was a little while in there when the big scary thing that we would deal with were those missile dreadnoughts.
Oh yeah.
And then we just got better at those, like noticeably better at those.
Well, yeah, I kind of figured out how to appropriately snipe them out. And so like my role has been doing a lot of like heavy target removal from the battlefield, whereas I am less good at the small stuff.
Yeah. Whereas I have I shred small things.
I will frequently call in airstrikes against large packs of small things.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, like the more we develop the like both our roles, like our chosen roles, and also like what are we fighting or what are we likely to fight, it's like, oh, okay, we want to have this available to us. Or we want, what are we going to do about X? And like sometimes the answer is we're going to run from it, or we're not going to fight it, or like pray.
We're gonna make sure that we go in knowing what the terrain of the planet is, so that we don't run into fire cyclones again.
Oh yeah, that was terrible. I have a twisted love of ice planets because
I've been enjoying the icy planets.
I use energy weapons. Energy weapons are great. They've got infinite ammo as long as they don't overheat.
I feel like the white and gray background of ice planets makes it very easy to pick out the bright red of the
red and dark steel of the automatons.
Yeah, of the automatons. I think if there were bugs on ice planets, I would probably be less enthusiastic about them. That said, I have now encountered, I don't know if it was a graphical bug or what, but there was just a bunch of like floating red dots in the middle of the air, and I was like, I think somebody is messing with me. I think somebody is like, I think that might be the next automaton improvement, is like phantom automatons. Cloaking devices, yeah.
Oh god.
Because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You might run into a completely new enemy type, and everyone will just lie to you about them.
Yeah, the level of like planning and restraint around the new stuff that goes into the game is incredible. Because they'll like regularly hotfix stuff, and sometimes they'll just hotfix in entirely new enemy types and tell nobody.
they recently hotfixed in a whole bunch of new upgrades, which were basically billed as requisitions from the central command because we lost a major order, and by we lost a major order, like
We got destroyed.
they did not give us much of a prayer there.
It's interesting, like not always. I bet that there's somebody back there who's not sure if that was possible. But the major orders, like winning or losing them, is just a story beat. I mean, you do get some pretty significant rewards for succeeding at them, but they're only super significant if you haven't already progressed some in the game, which is really neat because it means that if you're new, they're a huge boost.
Yeah.
And so you're like interested in the major order. Like it's a really good way to get you interested in like the major thing that's going on that the community is doing, because you look at those rewards and you're like, wow, that's 10 times what I can get from my missions. That's incredible. That's a ton of medals. The biggest complaint I've seen about the game, and I've seen it, I'm starting to hit it a little bit myself, is that there's a lot of they have this interesting. They have an upgrade system that, stop me if you've heard this one, lets you collect a currency and is structured broadly like a battle pass, except you can pick everything that you get from it in whatever order you choose. And as such, you can get like new armor and new weapons and so forth from it. But there's one standard free one that everybody gets, and then there's 3 ones that you can get for 1,000 super credits each, which is their like MTX currency that you can also acquire in game. Slow trickle, but enough to unlock stuff if you're thoughtful about it. But what I've seen is that people are saying like, well, but some of the best gear that you get is either your starting gear or is, a stone's throw from the starting gear. So after a certain point, you're sort of not getting new, like basic primaries and sidearms and armor that you're that excited about unless you like the way they look.
I don't know. There's definitely a rifle that I am looking at that I hear I should be trying to pick up.
Yeah.
Which is the Diligence Counter Sniper.
Yes. I'm currently trying to get the bolt gun. Yes, this is a Space Marine bolt gun. Everything you've read about Space Marine bolt guns from 40K, that is this gun. As absurd as it sounds. It's a rifle that shoots RPGs.
Ridiculous.
It's nonsense. It's a nonsense gun. It's apparently quite good.
But a lot of like primary weaponry is going to be part of your stratagem loadouts as well.
Yeah.
That's another thing is like, so you have 4 stratagems that you get to slot in. And one of them can just be like a new special rifle, a new special weapon. And so like for me, my typical stratagem loadout includes the anti-material rifle, which is their big sniper rifle. And this has an extremely long cooldown, so you can only really get one of them, or like you can get a second one in the middle of the mission. But like this also makes like dying interesting because now I have to make sure I get back to my corpse so I can pick up the gun I like. But yeah, so most of the new armaments I feel like are in the stratagems, which do follow a more reasonable progression path.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I'm really looking forward to eventually having the exosuit. Although I do somewhat think that the exosuit is hilarious in that I've now seen one in the battle and just thought it was an automaton and just started shooting at it. That's way too big of a piece of machinery for me to trust. I do like how many different scenarios I found myself put into where I'm like, what is the right thing for me to do here? Like oftentimes splitting the party does make sense in the bigger map missions because we want to we want to try and get more points of interest completed as a unit. And so like I will find myself where like we have separated and like you're under heavy fire and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I can stop what I'm doing and like use my sniper rifle to try and clear stuff off of you.
Yeah.
like from a really far distance. Or like the interesting challenge that a jammer tower provides, because suddenly you can't use any of your stratagems to blow it up. You have to go in and disable it by hand.
Yeah, they do an incredibly good job of, if the missions were more complicated than they are, it would be pretty difficult to deal with, because you'd have to like explain, the game would have to explain a lot that is sort of hard to communicate. So what it does is it gives you stuff that you understand and continually tweaks it. And so you keep seeing these like, it's like, oh, this is blow up a base, which you know how to do, except you can't use stratagems. Or this is, hit buttons on a console, but the console is broken, so you need to do this other thing to activate it. You need to restore power to this thing before you can do this other thing.
I like how when launching ICBMs, like one of the steps is, oh, right, all of the ICBM things are manually locked. So you have to go out to the like launch site and like manually remove the locks.
Oh my god, yeah. It also plays into the just like incredible everybody here is dumb.
Oh yeah.
Thing, because you're like, oh, this is dumb. This is a dumb thing that we shouldn't have to do, but here we are. It like adds another gameplay. It adds like a step to the gameplay, but without being annoying about it. Or when it's annoying about it, it's annoying because it's serving the narrative, and that's also funny.
I appreciate reading all of the descriptions of your upgrades, which are all terrible.
Oh my god, they're unbelievable.
I know the current thing in the Helldivers community is people feeling terrible about the level 4 Eagle upgrade, which allows you to put another bomb into the Eagle is your like fighter jet. So that's how you call in airstrikes. And the way they fit in the Eagle is by removing unnecessary systems such as ejection and life support and fire control.
Wonderful.
So it was a bit of a wild week in Path of Exile, where quite possibly the most busted farming strategy arose and was also nerfed. I know I talked some last week about the league mechanic and how it works, but essentially one of the parts of the league mechanic is manipulating the packs of monsters that spawn on a map, and you can replace those. And one of the new scarabs is basically unique monsters that are on your map drop an additional unique, and you can only have one of them on your map. However, there's a lot of things that exist in maps other than bosses that are unique monsters, specifically rogue exiles. One of the things that you could do with this system was swap out a pack of monsters or a spawn type of monsters for packs of rogue exiles. So you could, in theory, load up your atlas with a bunch of additional rogue exile spawns and then swap out every monster type that can spawn on a map with packs of rogue exiles. Then you could also add ritual, and if you happen to kill rogue exiles in the ritual, when you respawn the ritual, it will suck in every rogue exile that has died in a ritual area on your map. This created a scenario where quite literally thousands of unique monsters were spawning on maps.
This sounds remarkably silly.
We know this because one of the MTXs that they added this time was, I think, a ring that tracks how many of every monster type you killed in a map. So are there screenshots all over the place of like 1,200 rogue or 1,200 uniques that have died on the map, each one of them dropping a unique item. So yeah, it was just utter pandemonium. Like, I did this a few times. I did not go out of my way to purchase things to do this, But like I had some of the spawns, I had some of the scarabs, I did it a couple times, and it was just crash your system levels of nonsense happening. So shocking to no one, that got nerfed to where when you swap out a pack for Rogue Exiles, you are swapping the pack for a single Rogue Exile instead of a pack of monsters.
So I didn't get to do this before the nerf, but after the nerf, I got a map that said the strongest enemy in a pack replaces its dropped weapons with Chaos Orbs. And so I used the Rogue, I put that modifier on a Rogue Exile All Flame. I got 82 raw chaos in one map thanks to that. There's still silly things you can do in this game.
My favorite one of the map modifiers is pack of monsters is accompanied by a map boss. And if you put that towards the top, like, so basically the order of things in the list that you can manipulate is the frequency of occurrence. So if you slide that modifier up to the top, you're going to have so many map bosses on your map. And it's just a random assortment. Like, it's essentially, I think, the same algorithm that they use for destructive play, which summons in 1 to 3 extra bosses at the end of a map. So you're just running around and, you know, there's Katava for some reason in the middle of the map. Like it's pure nonsense. But yeah, like this strategy caused a massive devaluation of all the rare things. And so like there was a short period of time where you could buy headhunters for 20 div, but that is bouncing back because they quickly got this, you know, nerfed a little bit. But like one of these scarabs by itself was selling for like 2 div a piece. So yeah, like it's been bizarre, but like even if it's nerf state, like Kodra said, like it feels extremely good when you get one of these, you know, occurrences that spawns a ton of stuff in at once.
So one of the things that I've been dealing with is I'm sometimes, like, leagues can be feast and famine, right? I am definitely getting a bit of a famine league for myself here, where I have not really gotten the I've not necessarily gotten like a bunch of currency. I've mostly been reliant on charity from Bel to be able to acquire any gear.
I mean, it is going to be sobering, you know, against the league where you got a mirror to drop.
Well, but that's exactly my point. Is like I got a mirror last league, and that almost ended the league for me in some ways. Because like, what was I doing at that point? Like, I was buying stuff, and I was like getting more powerful, but like nothing that dropped mattered after you drop a mirror.
Right.
Like that's,
I mean,
that's
to be
that's,
fair, like I kind of went through that when, like, last league I bought a Mage Blood and a Headhunter and a Squire just to have them in standard because they were all at reasonable prices I could afford, and I was generating a stupid amount of divines. But also, like, as soon as I kitted out a character with a Headhunter, I stopped playing it. It wasn't as interesting as I thought it would be. And I also kitted out the character with the Mage Blood, and it was fine, but it also wasn't like this magical experience that I had made it out to be either.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I think that's a challenge of Path of Exile is it doesn't have a good way of like onboarding your rewards. Like for me, like I was sort of just really struggling, like looking at a whole bunch of stuff that I couldn't possibly hope to afford because I wasn't getting any of the drops that would allow me to buy them, and then just like kind of feeling miserable. So now I've gotten like sort of the entry level, like need to get a Sandstorm Visage, need to get yourself a Cloak of Flame 6-link, like that type of stuff starts to make you able to do some of the harder stuff. But like there needed to be, I feel, a better onboarding to that. I strongly think that the free rewards you get from just do like every league you get a free reward, like 8 free rewards. Those need to be more valuable and more impactful. And I don't care if they mess with the economy because they are 1 per account.
Yeah, I'm also convinced that they need to make Voidstone 3 and 4 work like Voidstone 1 and 2 did, to where you
How's
have
that?
quest support, to where you basically like can keep unlocking the thing until you finally beat Maven or beat Uber Elder. Because like
interesting.
with Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds, if you fail, you just run another map and you can get, another token to try again. My problem that I have with Maven and Uber Elder is it requires so much fiddling around to even get an attempt. And I don't particularly like the fiddling that's required. So today I finally decided I'm just going to buy a carry. And it was over. It cost me less than a div to get, like, there's 2 ways a carry could work, where you either provide the map and someone beats it for you, or you just ride along. And like I spent roughly a div in total this morning, got my last 2 void stones and a T17 unlocked so I can have a 5-way map device. And I am so much happier if I had continued, rather than if I had continued doing Maven witnesses, trying to get, crescent splinter things so that I can finally take on Maven. Like, I have beaten Maven. I have beaten Uber Elder. I just want the ability to get nothing but T16 drops, and also the ability to run 4 scarabs on a map. And like those feel like important things that are gated behind arbitrary content.
See, I feel like the answer is actually, I think that the gating needs to be less gating. But that's playing the game in some cases, in my opinion. Like,
yeah, I don't like bossing. Like I will never choose to do a boss.
But that's possibly because bosses are not well designed in this game. Bosses are not well designed in this game. But like that's also because content in this game is kind of it's so uneven.
I think the problem, like this is a problem, is I feel like to them, they want everybody to be playing every piece of content that exists in the game, whereas there's too much content and people will carve out niches. So like there's a player that may entirely specialize in doing heist, that's all they do. I do a lot of delve. I realize very few people actually do a lot of delve, but I enjoy delve. I do a fair amount of mapping. Like the swappability of the monsters, one of the monster types is basically, I think I talked about this last week, where it just, every monster you kill gives you sulfite. So if you just want to delve, you put one of those on the map in the highest density pack, and by the end of the map, you will have gained, like, I've got my sulfite is at 65k, which is the maximum you can have as your capacity for stocking up sulfite. And like, I can run one map with one of those monster types and fill up all 65k in a single map, and it's glorious. So like, if I just want to do delve, I can just do delve. And I think they've created this scenario where there's all these wonderful niches that you can just kind of live in, but their game doesn't really acknowledge that.
Well, but I was going to say, go ahead.
I think contributing to that is that the game has utterly inflexible builds, and you want different builds for the different niches. So it's a creation of their own devising.
Yeah, but like, I made a bosser last league. I still didn't enjoy bossing, even though I could face roll them.
Yeah, but it's like even even when you're talking about the reality of I'm whether or not you enjoy that content, just being able to have a build that does it is like its own hurdle.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a unicorn build that can literally do everything in the game.
And probably not one that's accessible as your only character.
Even that statement though has the small caveat of, you know what you still have to do no matter what? You still have to map. You still have to do the atlas.
Right. You still have to engage at least somewhat with mapping. Because like even if all you want to do is heist, you have to either engage entirely in trade but even then, like, I don't know, like, I guess you can buy all of the materials that you would need to heist in trade. You could buy the coins, you could buy the contracts, which is not something you can do with Delve. You have to still engage with maps in Delve. Blighted maps to some extent, like if you just want to run those, you can do that, but also you're gonna have to buy them. There's no way to just there's no way to focus on anything really without leaning heavily on trade. I really do like the fiddle with the packs on the map mechanic. Like, I think it creates some interesting outcomes. But there's also just still some clear loser mechanics out there. We were talking about that earlier with Torment, how it doesn't really work the way you would want it to work. Nothing feels good about chasing these stupid ghosts around the map, trying to herd them into packs of monsters.
Well, it took me so long to realize that, in fact, I don't want to chase down and murder the ghost.
No.
That's the worst thing you can do. I need to chase it into other enemies.
But the ghost does not want to cooperate and no.
Yeah, it's
Torment feels terrible.
I'm sure it's fine when you've got a sufficiently juiced map that there's just, wall-to-wall mobs, but,
No, if you're doing that, then they just die instantly, still.
Yeah, the problem is even though they buffed the hell out of them last league, one Hinakora's explosion will still one-shot any ghost, so it's not and I can't control when those happen, so...
Yeah, and clearing the screen is almost a necessity for playing the game beyond a certain point.
Yeah.
You need to be able to kill things before you can see them.
Or at least that is usually the hallmark of a quote-unquote good build, to be able to do that.
I mean, this is also why people hate Soul Eater.
Soul Eater got
which
much
they finally
better.
Nerfed some, yeah.
Yeah, it is significantly better. This it's not the game killer. I mean, for me, and I talked about this last show, and it continues to be a huge boon for me personally, but the existence of the Black Morrigan bestiary craft is just, it infinitely makes the game better to me. Because if I want to alt and I want them to have a 6-link, I just go get a Black Morrigan and run it, and then I can do 2 6-links in a row. And it's just it has made so many decisions easier now. Because 6-socketing something was always annoying but somewhat trivial. You can get that pretty easy. And especially now that you can just hold the button down and it will go until you 6-socket it. But 6-linking was the problem. And now I've 6-linked Quill Rain. I've 6-linked a Lightning Coil. I've 6-linked so many chests for people. I got Karth, a Brass Dome. I did Kodra's Cloak of Flames. I did Rick's Cloak of Flames. I did 2 of my own Cloak of Flames.
Cloak of Flames is a kind of important item this league, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good item that doesn't have any negatives other than the fact that it's an energy shield chest. Yes, chests are kind of not good, but it doesn't have a heavy negative resistance penalty, so it puts it a little bit ahead of the Lightning Coil for ease of use. I think that's something that they're going to have to address because damage shifting is just so much more powerful for survivability than stacking any other defenses.
And it's an extremely niche defense, which means that most players aren't going to even realize it's there.
Right, exactly. And how you get, like, it requires you to have a bunch of things that are their own edge cases. So, like, to get the helm enchant, you have to make sure you get a betrayal unveil from like a helm from Corel, or you need to know that I think it's boots that you can get damage shifting on from Exarch, Eater of World implicits. But like there's a bunch of these cases, and like Taste of Hate is now kind of just a required thing in a lot of builds, which is thankfully driving the price down, but also, I mean, it's a flask that you're going to always use with every build.
I do think that I am going to probably bounce out of this league as soon as I get all of the tier 1 equipment. Because I'm going to go back to Last Epoch, where things are intuitive, at least to me. I have to stress, to me, I can play Last Epoch and not feel like I'm just missing stuff.
I mean, Last Epoch is a great game. I like the character building functionality of the game. It just needs several more leagues to add more content.
Sure. I can understand it needs more content, but
I think that's inevitable.
Yeah, that's inevitable. Right now, like, I am still playing a Hexblast Miner, mostly because I don't feel like even now I have the tools to make my own character. Like, I was gonna try and just make my own thing, but even that feels like really sketchy right now.
Yeah, I mean, if making your own build is a thing that is important to you, Last Epoch is the superior game.
Yeah, and it is.
I mean, if breadth of content is the thing that you care the most about, like Path of Exile is unbeatable.
It'll be interesting because I feel like they've had a few, like they do add something new every league, but I'm not sure that all of their league mechanics are definitely not all hits.
Yeah, but a lot of times they remix them. So we've seen, like Tattoos and Omens, for example, those first went in with Ancestor League, but they've made some presence in Affliction and now have a more permanent home in Necropolis League. So I feel like we'll continue to see ideas getting remixed and then eventually finding a new home. I mean, they brought back Ultimatum, which I kind of wish they hadn't. I liked Metamorph, so they're not all hits, but they did basically destroy the meta from last league. So I mean, there have been significant shakeups, which I think is more than anything what they try and do with a patch, except for, most of the builds are now detonate dead. So I expect that to be nerfed next league.
I'm surprised it made it intact, quite frankly. It's
I know.
The most overpowered build for 3 leagues in a row. It's just been overshadowed by the ease of playing Tornado Shot.
Right. They did kill Tornado Shot. Like, you can still do it apparently, but like there has been no interest.
And then there's my build, which is the second most popular, and I imagine is going to get nerfed.
The thing is there's always been some sort of broken mining build, so I mean, even if they get rid of Hexblast, there will be something else.
I know the big other thing that I should look into is Exsanguinate, apparently.
Like Exsanguinate mines?
Yeah, apparently Exsanguinate mines are a thing right now. Not a Sabo, though. I do think if Hexblast went away, Sabo might just disappear. Or at least Sabo miners. Sabo trappers are probably still fine.
What's Sabo trappers?
Great question. I don't know enough about this game.
Yeah, most of the trap builds I know are not played on Saboteur.
It's true. And there's a great question, because why would you play anything other than a Trickster?
Man, I haven't even been playing this game that long, and it's funny to me how much that statement wouldn't have existed not that long ago.
Really? I think Trickster's
were
pretty busted
bad.
for a
No.
while.
In Kalandra League,
Yeah.
Trickster got changed.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was complete garbage in Kalandra League.
Oh, because they didn't know.
They knew it was complete garbage in Sentinel League, so it's like, it's not worse. This initial evaluation was incorrect.
Yes. Kalandra League changed it a lot.
Like, one of the things that Trickster is doing is, like, just completely messing with action economy, which is very good.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I remember, because Trickster looked like it appealed to me when I was first trying out Sentinel League. And then I checked the internet, and you know that meme where it's like the guy opening up Furnace? That was what it was like when I looked up Trickster.
Like, that's kind of been an ongoing pattern with this game, is it sometimes takes a couple of leagues for someone to appreciate a change that happened.
That doesn't surprise me. The game is structured to encourage that.
It's an incredibly
it's hard to
complex
change
game.
a build.
And and most people aren't making new builds. They're using the build some other guy made.
Yeah, you need to have a person who is savvy enough at the game to create their own builds, and both interested enough in doing so, and dedicated enough to try something that everybody else thinks is bad and hammer on it until they maybe find a good version of it, which is probably like 15, 20 characters.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times it's gearing. Like, there's some sort of gimmick that they figure out works really well with this thing, and then that just unlocks everything.
That actually sort of ties into it for me. I think cause and effect are switched there, because I think what's happening is an item will drop randomly for somebody who is big into buildcraft, and they'll look at it and they'll be like, wait a minute, I can make that work. Maybe I can make that work with Trickster. And that's how they'll figure it out. Like, it'll be a random impetus to be like,
I feel like that this is how I build characters in Last Epoch. I get an item that has enough LP on it for me to think, okay, what would I want this item to eventually look like? And then I say, okay, where is the home for this item then? And like, I don't feel like items have enough push in this game for that.
Well, most items are too bad, and it ends up creating this scenario where you don't ever really look at rares. So there's probably some gems out there that we have not even paid attention to, because there's just so much volume of rares that it is too much to ever digest. And the average item that drops is too bad. Like, I feel like a simple thing that they could do is, as the items get higher in item level, the lowest possible rolls drop off. And that's not a thing that happens. Like, you can get an item level 100 item with the lowest possible roll of a stat. And it creates a scenario where most rares that drop are not even worth looking at, because there's too wide of a range of the possible outcomes. It's like, what's a sane roll for a level 1 character should never be gotten from an item out of a red map.
Yeah, where red maps just give you the opportunity to get the ridiculously good item.
Yep. The average item that falls on the ground in Last Epoch is better than the average item that falls on the ground in Path of Exile.
oh, by a huge margin.
Well, and I can
it's not even close.
I can also actually filter I can look for items on the ground and create like filters to only show me items I care about because they're all identified.
Yeah, like, identifying items is something that needs to go away as a construct. It is dumb.
I think at least in Path of Exile, I completely agree with you. I think it's possible to do unidentified items in an interesting way, but like, games don't.
Well, like, if you could equip the item without knowing its stats and identifying an item was like something that would give you some special thing, then like I feel like that's kind of interesting. But
it's literally just busy work.
It's just busy work, right? It is a stack of scrolls that we have to have in our inventory at all times to do this stupid thing, which keeps us from just like checking more items.
Yeah, mostly it means you leave stuff on the ground rather than even worry about it.
Yeah, I don't pick up items.
Like
that's what crafting's for.
If I'm looking for something specific, like anytime a rare base that's a Void Scepter or an Opal Scepter drops, and if I happen to be paying attention, I will pick it up, identify it, just to see if it has a decent roll. Because like somewhere out there, there's a +2 gems scepter that's rotting on the floor. I just know there is.
Yeah, definitely.
But
that way lies madness, Bel. No.
I know it does. It does.
No, Bel, for your own mental health.
Can't let yourself think of that.
Like I said, I only do it when I happen to be paying attention, and I have wisdom scrolls in my inventory. Anyway, I think the League mechanic has been interesting. It's doing some truly dumb things on the crafting side, and I want none of it.
Oh my goodness. You mentioned there's an item that I want to get, the Parendurst Pact. You could not.
I sent you down this path, and I'm so sorry.
No. Yeah, correct. You need to be apologizing to me. That needs to be more full-throated.
I'm so sorry.
Like, yes, this item is absolutely something I would want. It's like 4 divines, or I could craft it, or I can wait until I have 4 divines.
I bought mine. Mine was a cheap one. Nobody cares about fire damage. And like this one gem is giving me, I think at this point, 125 fire damage or increased fire damage.
Yeah, so the way that you're supposed to do it, because I watched the video that Bel sent me, is you're supposed to take 88 corpses and arrange them meticulously throughout this graveyard based on a spreadsheet in exactly the right order. But like, there's no guide to like what this, like mapping the spreadsheet you're seeing to like the graveyard you're putting it in, and there's a whole bunch of question marks still, like, oh, you're supposed to find 4 graves for the Parendurst corpses, and like I just got anxiety trying to think about this.
It's madness. And all of the things that have been created to calculate ways to craft items use all 88 corpses.
Of course they do, because you're able to craft ridiculously god tier items.
It's just
my current problem in trying to find a better base for my wand right now is that they are too fractured. They are triple fractured wands now.
Yeah. Or you can now craft items that have 2 different kinds of influences that you could never have on an item before. There's like a whole side hustle of creating 8 gem helmets.
Like, yeah, no, the League's crafting mechanic is absolutely ridiculous and completely inaccessible.
Yeah,
completely inaccessible.
Like, it is a great mechanic for SSF as you're leveling through and you just need any rare in a slot.
Like, the game of crafting in this league seems like a completely different game that I don't actually want to play. Like, I am really happy for the people who are like, oh, this is the coolest crafting system I've ever experienced. Not for me. Like, and this is the problem, is you don't get to casually craft in this, because as we were talking about, like, you and I kind of wrote this mechanic off because, like, we put a couple of corpses in and then bad stuff came out.
Just got absolute trash. Yeah.
And that's because we weren't thinking like the absolute mad lads of like, what? Well, there's nothing stopping you from putting 88 bodies into a single craft to create perfect items.
Right. Yeah. Like,
And then like
I didn't have 33,000% increased to this one stat.
But like, I get why this is interesting to some people, but like, also, isn't this very against their ethos of like what they want crafting to look like?
Right. Like that's what floors me about this is they always said that original harvest that I never got to experience. I only ever saw watered down harvest before the even further watered down harvest that we have now. But apparently the original harvest was very similar to this. And like they have said multiple times that this was a path too far. But now this even seems worse.
I mean, they also said that about recombinators. Like, they don't want item crafting to be too deterministic. So, like, this thing, it ain't sticking around.
No, it's not sticking around at all. Like I could see parts of the Embers system or All Flames or whatever it's called. Like I could see that maybe sticking around in some form, but yeah, no. Corpse crafting is a one and done, just like Crucible was a one and done.
Wait, why is Crucible one and done? Okay, that one I need more explanation on.
There were just some truly broken build possibilities. Like I think they may bring back talent trees on
Crucible
weapons.
was too much fun.
Talent trees on weapons was an interesting concept, but some of the things that they allowed to happen as a result.
What is the thing I'm thinking about with the laser robots?
Oh, you're thinking of Sentinel.
Sentinel.
Oh, okay.
Crucible
That's the one that had recombinators.
Yeah.
That's why those haven't come back.
Crucible was every weapon can have a talent tree of its own that has basically notables on it and allowed you to double dip notables that were already on your passive tree. Yeah,
I really wanted it to be What If Disgaea, but
that would have been fun.
Put a weapon into the map thing and you go into the weapon and yeah.
That would have been way cooler than the hold button to channel mechanic on the map. Anyway, we have gone way over at this point.
Sorry.
Any final thoughts about anything?
I can think of.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and thanks for those who have been with us since the beginning.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. We will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.